You've been told silence is weakness, that if you don't react, you'll lose her, that if you don't explain yourself, she'll never understand you. But here's the paradox. The moment a man stops explaining, justifying and performing, he becomes stronger than he's ever been. And that strength doesn't come from coldness. It comes from clarity. Think about it. Every time you rush to explain yourself, you're handing over the keys to your mind. Every time you fight to prove your worth, you're giving her the steering wheel. And every time you break your own standards to keep someone comfortable, you're telling the world your peace is negotiable. But the man who stops doing that, the man who steps into stillness, he becomes dangerous, not because he threatens anyone, but because he no longer needs anyone. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a craftsman in Athens who built chairs. People mocked him because his work was simple, no carvings, no decoration, no flair. Yet over time, his chairs became the most sought after. Why? Because they didn't break. They lasted through storms, weight, and years. He wasn't the loudest, he wasn't the flashiest, but his strength was silent and undeniable. That's the essence of presence. You don't need to carve yourself up to impress someone. You just need to be solid. Here's where most men collapse. They confuse attention with affection. They think if she's looking at them, it means she values them. But attention can be cheap. Respect is not. Respect is earned by a man who doesn't barter his peace, who doesn't jump at every test, who doesn't fold under pressure. Women test not to break you, but to feel your frame. They want to know if you can hold steady when the waves crash. And if you bend every time she frowns, sighs, or pulls away, you've already answered her question. Now, let's get practical. How do you build this kind of unshakable presence? First, you need a world that exists without her. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man's worth is measured by the things he pursues. If your only pursuit is her approval, then your worth will always be fragile. But if your pursuit is your craft, your mission, your growth, then she enters your orbit, not as your oxygen, but as your companion. Second, stop narrating your every move. Some men think vulnerability means constant disclosure, telling her every thought, every fear, every doubt. Vulnerability is not exposure, it's control. It's choosing what deserves to be shared and what belongs to your inner temple. Mystery isn't manipulation, it's dignity. Third, reclaim your silence. Don't confuse silence with avoidance. Avoidance is running. Silence is ruling. When you choose not to react, you're not being weak. You're showing that not every fire deserves your water. Let her wonder. Let her feel your absence. In that quiet, she will hear more than your words could ever tell her. Here's an exercise. The next time she tries to provoke a reaction, pause, breathe. Instead of defending yourself, let your stillness do the work. It will feel unnatural at first, but watch how quickly the dynamic shifts. Her power dissolves when you no longer hand it to her. Fourth, protect your standards. A boundary is not a request, it's a line. If you say you don't tolerate disrespect, but you keep returning after it happens, you've taught her that your word means nothing. But the man who walks away calmly, without anger, without pleading, that man is unforgettable, because he showed that his peace is more valuable than her approval. Let me give you another story. A king once had two advisors. One flattered him daily, always rushing to speak, always trying to impress. The other was quiet. He only spoke when necessary, but when he did, his words carried weight. Guess which one the king trusted when war came? The silent one, because silence backed by strength is louder than endless noise. That's you. Stop being the man who flatters for approval. Be the man whose presence speaks without explanation. Now here's where stoicism comes in. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." Most men live at the mercy of reaction. She ignores him, he panics. She frowns, he apologizes. She withdraws, he chases. But the stoic man doesn't bend to that rhythm. He holds his own. He becomes the mountain, not the leaf. So let's break down the shift. When she pulls away, you don't panic. You stay rooted. When she withholds affection, you don't beg. You keep building. When she tests you, you don't collapse. You let her see your standards in action. That shift is not cruelty. It's composure. It's what separates boys who need validation from men who carry presence. And here's the irony. When you stop being predictable, when you're no longer emotionally programmable, she starts to feel something she can't control: curiosity, desire, respect, because she sees a man who doesn't orbit her moods, a man who walks with direction, not desperation. Your job isn't to make her comfortable. Your job is to protect your center, to guard your peace as if it were a kingdom, because it is. And only those who honor it deserve entry. And if she leaves, let her. That isn't loss, that's alignment. A man who knows his worth doesn't mourn those who couldn't value it. He rebuilds, he grows. He becomes so centered, so full, that her absence is not emptiness. It's space for something better. Remember this. You don't need to be the loudest man in the room. You don't need to explain your every move. You don't need to win her approval with gifts, words, or endless effort. You only need to be present, solid, and rooted. Because when a man becomes unshakable, when his silence is filled with strength and his presence is steady, he doesn't just become unforgettable. He becomes untouchable. So stop chasing. Stop explaining. Stop leaking your energy into hands that don't know how to hold it. Walk with clarity. Walk with stillness. And let your presence do what words never could. Because, in the end, the most dangerous man is not the one who shouts, but the one who no longer needs to speak.